Smaller cars really are just better, aren't they? Especially for UK roads. Our roads are horrendous right now. We literally can't go anywhere without being bounced around. You need a softly sprung car to be able to enjoy any roads now, especially as they're so busy that you are forced off onto not just B roads but C roads to actually get any kind of clearance to have a good blast. I think these type of cars are going to be more and more in demand, and that explains why the likes of the Porsche 911 Dakar and the Starato are so celebrated, because we know that is the type of car where you're actually going to be able to have some fun in it. Whereas the likes of like the new GT3, it's going to work in the likes of Spain or Germany where the roads are silky, and Switzerland. But here in the UK, and I imagine a lot of other countries, just don't have the roads for it. If you're a subscriber to this channel, you'll know that whenever we do like a road trip video, we always conclude this would have been great in an MX5. This would have been great in an MX5. Every video, this road's perfect for an MX5. Especially if you watch the Alpine A110 videos as well. So you join me in a Mk1 MX5. My Mk1 MX5. So this is very much a ownership review. And it's not just any MX5, it is highly modified. And I don't mean modified in just an engine sense. It is modified for a lot of aesthetic as well as the suspension. It's supercharged up to 220 brake horsepower, and I'm not going to go through every single item. I'm going to leave that down below for those who are interested. You can have a look at the full list. And funnily enough, if you're watching this video when it is released, the car is currently up for auction. It is being auctioned and people are bidding on this car right now as you watch this video. So if you want to see more pictures, see what price it's going for, what it went for, or if you're interested in bidding on this car, then click the Piston Heads link down below and you can take a look and see if you're interested. So I think this car pretty much has every single aftermarket option you can get on an MX5, both interior, exterior and engine. It's got bucket seats. It is tuned and supercharged up to 220 brake horsepower. I think it can actually put out more than 220. This car gets so much attention. I've never had so much positive attention from a car, whether it's from the public in petrol stations or whether it's at a car show with Bugattis and Ferraris, etc. And I think that's because everybody's considered an MX5 at some point in their life. If you're going to get a sports car, the MX5 is your go-to to shortlist. So when they see one like this and kind of this modified, then they can't help but be interested and appreciate this car, especially a Mark 1, because you can get them rocketeered, and that Jaguar V6 Rocketeer V6 naturally aspirated does look fantastic. But for the money, I think you're better off doing supercharged or turbocharged. It's a big debate actually, the supercharged versus turbocharged on an MX5. I personally prefer supercharged 90% of the time, because I think you retain that MX5 character with supercharging, where you really have to still work for the boost or the power, whereas turbocharging, you kind of wait and it comes up on its own, which is very fun. And I don't blame anybody for turbocharging, because it's quite entertaining, but supercharging just suits this car. So therefore, if I was deciding between the two, I'd go supercharged and then leave turbocharging to perhaps your next car. And one thing to note about the supercharger is, if you're going to get one, of course, these are cable throttles. Therefore, you're adding an extra cable to the throttle pedal. So you have to push a little bit harder to trigger both the engine and the supercharger at the same time. So that doesn't bother me. You adjust it. It just, imagine your throttle pedal is just about 20% stiffer. That's how it's going to be when you have a supercharger. As I've owned this, it's really confirmed what I've said in other videos, which is I think I just prefer mechanical feeling cars in general. As you know, I loved my Alpine A110, but I do like the rawness of cars, and this kind of mechanical gear shift that the MX5 gives you, the steering feel. I don't think steering feel's as important as what a lot of YouTubers and journalists say. I think that's something that they just say because other journalists say it. There are times and places in certain cars where you don't need a lot of steering feel and hydraulic steering. Sometimes, such as the Alpine A110, it doesn't really matter. You're still enjoying the car just as much. Therefore, it's a bit blown out of proportion. On that subject, I feel like chassis rigidity is another one. Because this is an open-top car and people always say, oh, well, you're losing a lot of rigidity and you're going to feel that on track, and you're going to really feel that when you're having spirited drives going 10/10ths. But how often do you go 10/10ths? So if you want the convertible version of a car, the MX5 is meant to be one of the best track cars you can buy. That's a convertible. The Caterham, the best track car you can buy, no argument. That's got no roof. Same for the Ariel Atom, actually. So, no, don't worry about chassis rigidity and things like that if you're not going to be taking the car to 10/10ths all of the time. And on that subject, with this Mk1 MX5, I feel like it's matured me in a way, because I thought I would drive this car like I drove the Alpine, which kind of was like 8/10ths everywhere. It was just such a go-kart and so fun that, yeah, I bombed it everywhere. But this car has made me enjoy driving at more 5/10ths and 6/10ths. It will do the 10/10ths. I've done it on track. I took this to Cadwell. It was brilliant. But I've never known a car just be so enjoyable to cruise around B-roads in. Just to feel the road, the bends, carry the speed into the bends. You really don't need like capabilities. It's just so much fun at those slower, sedate speeds that's what you end up using this car for. And I've heard other people say that about their MX5 as well. You think that what you're going to do is blast it everywhere, but no, you don't. You just enjoy your country drive with the roof down. And when I did take this car to Cadwell and really went 10/10ths, unfortunately the suspension was in its softer setting, which was really annoying. I didn't know that. I didn't know that the car had been set up like that from the previous owner. And this car has the Mazda R coilovers on, which I believe are regarded as the best you can get for the Mk1 MX5. And if you're someone who shies away from setting up a car yourself, and therefore adjustable suspension is quite a scary thing for you, don't worry about it. The reason I didn't touch it was I thought you needed expertise in setting up a car, but you really don't. A very quick crash course is that all you're doing is twisting the top of the suspension. So you've got a number of clicks. Each suspension, each set of coilovers is different. So for this one, I think it's 32. So what you do is you twist it to the very softest setting, and then you twist it and count how many clicks or notches that you've clicked. So I go to, on the front, around about 20, which is actually quite firm, and then you go to 20 on the other side. And then on the rear, you can either match it or you can go a bit softer. I go a bit softer and go to about 16 on the rear. They are very accessible at the front on the Mk1 MX5, and on the rear, on the right, very accessible. On the left, you have to take a couple of bolts out to remove the panel, and you can easily access it from there. And I love playing around with it because I wanted to have it soft for UK roads, but I wanted to have a lot of stability in the corners and a lot of reactivity from the front end. So I wanted it to be quite a pointy car, so when I turned in, I wanted the car to react straight away. And with the softer setting, because it's a bit wallowy, it's not as reactive, so therefore I do prefer a bit firmer on the front. And I think every car should get a more aggressive geometry setup. Whatever your car is, get a more aggressive geometry setup, because from factory, all cars are incredibly safe. So if you want your car to feel more lively, then go and get a geometry setup. To get the numbers for this, all I did was use ChatGPT, and it used the flying Miata stats or figures or whatever you call it. And then I just went to a local motorsport garage, gave them what ChatGPT had suggested, and he put it on. He said, yeah, that sounds perfect. And that's why places like Centre Gravity, Porsche specialist in the UK, everyone says it transformed the car. Well, it wasn't Centre Gravity necessarily working their magic. They might be very good at researching the best numbers, but 80% of what they've done is just a good geometry setup. So again, don't be afraid of whatever car you have getting a good geometry setup done. Every MX5 drives differently because most of them are modified anyway. They've all got different coilovers on. Some are power steerings with the quicker rack, some don't have power steering. Some people had the power steering with the quicker rack and removed the power steering. Then you've got different weights, different things that have been done to them, different wheel sizes. So they all do drive a little bit differently. This one has slightly wider wheels on. Personally, I think I would rather smaller wheels and a bit more fun and a bit more reactivity rather than the stability that this particular car offers. But if you're someone who's going to be doing a lot of traveling, a lot of miles, then you will want that additional stability. I hope you guys can hear me okay, by the way, because it is quite windy in here. And annoyingly, if you put a roll cage in this car, which you should for safety, you can't fit a wind deflector. All the wind deflectors go into the same place that the roll cage goes. And I've thought about trying to get something on Etsy or something, someone to custom make like a net or mesh that goes over the wind deflector, because when I go above 70 on the motorway, it is a bit much. So that's probably my only real downside to this car, really. I'll absolutely adore the car otherwise. This car also has a lightweight flywheel and uprated clutch on it, so it's very motorsporty. I think that for how I use this car, when it eventually needs a new clutch and flywheel, I'll probably go to a lesser lightweight flywheel, just because when you start it, you've got to keep the revs up a bit until the car's warmed up a bit. Around town, you've got to keep the revs up to be able to keep the car moving, otherwise it'll stall. So everyone loves a lightweight flywheel, but when it comes to just cruising and living with the car and nipping to the shops, it gets a bit annoying comparing to the benefits that you actually get from it. When it comes to upgrading the parts, there is so much support for the MX5. I'd actually argue that the MX5 as a model line has the best aftermarket support of any car that I know, and it's fantastic. Here in the UK, I recommend Bofi Racing. They have essentially all of the best parts, and when I'm struggling or I need some advice, they're always on hand to help me out, and everything always comes really quick and next day. And parts for this car and just general maintenance, so cheap. I just sometimes I can't believe how cheap it is to run this car. And then something will break, like the belt and water pump, and it's compared to other cars and manufacturers, it's nothing. And brakes and tires, and don't quote me on this, but I think these new tires that I put on were about 40 quid each. But in general, I'd say that this car just looks and feels fantastic, especially in the generation where resto mods are becoming so popular. The fact that you've got all these aftermarket parts available to upgrade your car and essentially create a resto mod is unbelievable and so cheap. You might have noticed the seats behind me are not stock. They are very good seats, and I got them just because I thought they looked great in the car. They were a nightmare to get in, and this is as far back as they'll go. So luckily I'm about 6 foot, maybe just under 6 foot, so that gives you an idea of how far back these seats will go. It's not bad, they lean back quite a lot, but if you're any taller than that, you are going to struggle with aftermarket seats that don't go past a certain point, which explains why everyone who puts aftermarket seats in goes for like the Cobra Monacos, Sparco Sprints, that kind of thing, which is all the same seat, but they're very small and they're very uncomfortable, but it is the bucket seat you can get into the car easily. Again, because it's an MX5, tons of support for brackets and things like that to actually get them in. These were a nightmare to get in. I had to get brackets customized, and there was a lot of trial and error to get these in. Thankfully now they're in and they're perfect and they're great, but if you are going to embark on that ordeal of fabricating your own brackets, and also you have to modify the transmission tunnel to be able to get enough space to be able to get the seats in and shut the door, it was probably not worth the hassle, and you should just keep it simple and go for the Sparco Sprints or Cobra Monacos. And if you have a Mark 1, you can just fit the Mark 2 seats straight in, which are very comfortable, but you don't sit very low. I like sitting low in my cars, and even then I would like to be a bit lower in this car ideally, but there is literally from the floor of the car this much plastic between me and my butt, so really I can't get much lower without tipping the seat backwards even more, which I haven't found a bracket that would allow me to do that anyway, and it would mean bringing the seat further forward. But my conclusion of the Mazda MX5, I've always been, ever since I owned my Caterham, which is the best driving car I've ever experienced, I would say I've always been chasing that Caterham experience, but something a bit more usable and practical. And this is it. If you want the best driving experience, an MX5 that you've made your own and set up how you like your cars is the way to go. So for anyone looking for a Mark 1 MX5 or considering it, I'd say absolutely get one. Know that your seating position is going to be potentially not as far back as you'd want. Apart from that, it's exactly the car that you're expecting it to be, and you're going to absolutely love it. And yeah, comment down below if you've got one or had one in the past or think about getting one. By the time you're watching this, most of you will, the auction will be over, so you'll be able to see what this car actually did sell for at auction, no reserve. So a little bit scary for me, but entertaining for you. And I'll see you in the next video.